My name's Jess, and back in 2019, I was 17 and desperate for cash. So I took the only job I could get, overnight stocker at Food Star, the grimy grocery store on the edge of town. The place was dead after 10 p.m., just me, flickering fluorescents, and a hum of freezers full of off-brand pizzas. That week, the Easter clearance aisle was a war zone. Gutted shelves, crushed peeps, and chocolate bunnies with their ears snapped off. I didn't mind the quiet, though. It beat babysitting my little brother. That night, I was zoning out, reorganizing a half-collapsed display of assorted chocolates when my fingers brushed something wet. I recoiled. One of the truffles had a ragged bite mark, like someone chomped down and spit it back. My stomach lurched. Then I saw it. Wedged in the caramel ooze was a fucking tooth. Not plastic, not candy. Yellowish at the root, with a streak of dried blood where it had torn free that I screamed so loud the manager, Dave, came sprinting from the back. Dave was a divorced ex-Marine who chewed Nicorette like it was oxygen, and even he turned green when I pointed at the box. "Don't touch it," he muttered, already pulling out his phone. While he called the cops, I stared at that tooth, my brain short-circuiting. Who bites into chocolate, loses a tooth, and just leaves it? The security footage would explain everything, I told myself. But when Dave pulled up the recordings from the night before, the screen showed aisle 6, Easter candy, empty except for one guy. Hoodie up, hands in pockets, just standing there. Not browsing, not moving. For 18 minutes. My skin prickled. Then Dave froze the frame. "Jess," he said, voice tight. "Look at this." He zoomed in. The guy's head had tilted, just once, toward the camera. And his face, God, his face wasn't pixelated or shadowed. It was blank, like a mannequin, but worse. No eyes, no mouth, just skin stretched too smooth, like something had erased it mid-breath. The cop showed up 20 minutes later, but by then, Dave had replayed that clip so many times the pixels felt burned into my retinas. Officer Ruiz, a no-nonsense woman with a graying buzz cut, leaned over the monitor, frowning. "Probably just a glitch," she said, but her knuckles were white around her notepad. They bagged the tooth like it was evidence, which it was, except this wasn't some shoplifting case. That thing on the footage hadn't stolen anything. It hadn't even moved. Just stood there, a void in a hoodie, while the timestamp ticked away. Before they left, Ruiz asked if I'd noticed anything else off lately. I almost laughed. Yeah, the freezer section smells like rotting meat even after they clean it. And sometimes the automatic doors open for nobody. But I bit my tongue. Cops don't care about vibes. They've sent me home early, but I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing it, that smooth, eyeless face tilting like it knew the camera was watching. At 6 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was Dave. "Don't come in tonight. Store's closed. No explanation." I texted back, but he didn't answer. By noon, the local Facebook group was blowing up with rumors. Someone's kid had found another tooth, this time in a marshmallow egg near the checkout lanes. Then Marisol, the day shift cashier, posted a photo of the parking lot, a trail of muddy footprints leading into the store. Not shoes, bare feet, and the toes, they were too long. Knuckled, almost, like whatever made them didn't quite understand how humans are put together. My hand shook so bad I dropped my phone. Because the print stopped right at aisle 6 that night, I drove past Food Star just to see for myself. The parking lot was empty except for Dave's beat-up truck, but the lights were on. Not the usual dim overnight glow, but every single fluorescent blaring like some kind of sick beacon. My stomach dropped when I saw the automatic doors shuttering open and shut like something was testing them. I almost peeled out of there, but then I spotted Dave through the glass. He was pacing near the registers, his face pale under the harsh light, his mouth moving fast like he was arguing with someone. Except there was no one else there. I rolled down my window just enough to hear him yelling, "It wasn't me. I didn't take it." Then he froze. His head snapped toward the Easter aisle, and he screamed. Not a shout, not a curse, a full-on, gut-wrenching wail. I didn't stick around to see why. The store stayed closed for a week. Police tape, a condemned, notice slapped on the doors, the whole deal. Rumor was they found more than teeth. Apparently, the freezer where we stored overstock had been pried open from the inside, even though it only locked from the outside. I tried calling Dave, but his number was disconnected. Then, last night, I got a notification from my cloud storage. New video detected from linked devices. My old work iPad was still signed into the store's security system. The video was time-stamped 3:17 a.m., hours after Food Star was supposed to be empty. The footage was grainy, but I could see the Easter aisle. And there, between the shelves, something was crawling. Not on all fours, not like an animal. It moved wrong, twitching, folding, limbs bending in places they shouldn't. Then it stopped, raised its head, and the camera caught just enough light to show its face, or where its face should have been that I must have watched that video a dozen times, pausing on every shuddering movement, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The thing's body looked almost human, but stretched like wet clay smeared across bones. And the way it moved, it wasn't just crawling. It was searching, hands patting the shelves, pausing at the spots where we'd found the teeth. My breath caught when it stopped at the exact box of chocolates I'd been restocking that first night. It tilted its head, that same unnatural motion from the security footage, and then, with a jerk, its whole body spasmed. A wet, crunching sound crackled through the iPad speakers as something small and white fell from its sleeve onto the floor. Another tooth. My hands went numb. It wasn't leaving them behind. It was placing them there that I didn't sleep. I just sat there, staring at my bedroom wall, wondering if it knew my name. Because here's the thing, I'd touched that chocolate. My fingerprints were all over that box. And now, every time I closed my eyes, I saw that faceless thing crouched in the dark, running its fingers over the places I'd been. At dawn, I got a call from Marisol. Her voice was a whisper. Dave's gone. Not dead. Gone. His truck was still in the parking lot. Keys on the seat, phone charging in the cup holder. But his front door was wide open, and on his kitchen table, there was a single half-eaten chocolate from Food Star. The filling was smeared red. Not caramel. Not jam. I hung up and threw my phone across the room. That's when I heard it. A soft, wet click from my closet door. Like something had just unlatched it from the inside. The closet door didn't open all the way, just a sliver of darkness, wide enough for the smell to hit me. Rotten milk. Vet cardboard. Like the back of Food Star stockroom when the power went out. My whole body locked up, but my eyes wouldn't look away. Something was breathing in there. Shallow, uneven gulps like it was tasting the air. Then, scratch, 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 fingernails dragging down the inside of the door. Too many fingernails. Too long. I couldn't move. Couldn't scream. The only thought in my head, it's not here for the teeth. It's here for whoever touched them. My hand flew to my mouth. Had I licked chocolate off my fingers that night? The scratching stopped. A wet, guttural sound bubbled from the closet. And then, clear as a whisper, Jessis. I ran. Didn't grab shoes, didn't turn off lights. Just bolted out the front door and into the street. The neighbor's motion sensor floodlight kicked on, and for half a second, I dared to hope. But then I saw it. Across the street, under the flickering glow of a dying street lamp, stood the hooded figure. No face, no features, just that awful, smooth skin reflecting the light like plastic. It wasn't chasing me. It was waiting, and in its hand, dangling between those two long fingers, was a single chocolate from Food Star. Unwrapped, bitten. I didn't stick around to see what was inside. I sprinted until my lungs burned, until I hit the 24-hour gas station on the edge of town. The clerk took one look at me, barefoot, wild-eyed, and called the cops. But what was I supposed to tell them? A faceless thing is leaving teeth and candy, and now it knows my name. The cops didn't believe me, of course. They drove me home, did a courtesy check of my apartment, and left when they found nothing. No broken locks, no signs of forced entry. Just my closet door, slightly ajar the way I'd left it. But I knew. The air inside was thicker now, sour with the smell of spoiled chocolate. And on the floor, half hidden under a crumpled hoodie, was a single tooth. Not old or blood-crusted like the others. This one was fresh, still glistening. I didn't sleep in my apartment after that. I crashed on Marisol's couch, jumping at every creak of the pipes, every car that drove by too slow. But 3 nights later, I got a text from an unknown number. Just a photo, a close-up of my work name tag, still clipped to my Food Star apron. The fabric was torn, stain brown, and beside it, arranged in a neat little row, were 5 teeth. The message underneath read, "You forgot these. I moved cities, changed my number, got a job at a coffee shop where everything was brightly lit and smelled like espresso, not freezer burn." But last week, I opened my mailbox to find a small, unmarked package. Inside was a box of assorted chocolates, the same brand we sold at Food Star. The seal was broken. One piece had a bite taken out. I didn't need to look to know what was nestled in the caramel. I threw it all in the dumpster behind the shop, but that night, I woke up to the sound of my kitchen cabinet clicking open. Slow, deliberate. And when I checked, there was on the counter, a single chocolate placed neatly on a napkin. The bite marks this time were mine. That Easter morning was too perfect The kind of sunshine that makes you squint, the smell of fresh-cut grass, and the sound of kids shrieking with laughter as they zigzagged across the park. My daughter, Lily, was 5 then, all bouncing curls and scraped knees, her pastel dress fluttering as she sprinted toward another plastic egg. I remember leaning against the picnic table, sipping lukewarm coffee when my gaze snagged on him. A man in a washed-out gray hoodie, standing too still near the tree line. No kids running up to him, no phone in his hand, just watching. Something about the way his hood cast a shadow over his face made my skin prickle, but I told myself I was being paranoid. It was a public park after all. Lily came barreling back minutes later, her cheeks flushed, clutching something in her tiny hands. "Look, Mommy, I won," she crowed, thrusting a red egg at me. Not the cheap, neon plastic kind. This one was real, smooth and cold, like it had been boiled and dyed. My stomach dropped. "Where'd you find this, sweetie?" She pointed toward the trees, right where the hooded man had been. The egg felt heavier than it should have. When I cracked it open on the picnic table, a sliver of glass glinted inside, wedged into the yolk like a razor blade. My hand shook as I showed the event coordinator, but he just laughed. "Teenagers," he said, tossing in the trash. But the man was gone now, and the glass, it looked deliberate. The rest of the egg hunt passed in a blur. I kept scanning the park, my fingers digging into Lily's shoulders every time she tried to run off again. The man never reappeared, but his absence didn't calm me. It made it worse. Like he'd gotten what he came for. That night, after tucking Lily in, I paced the kitchen, the image of that red egg burning behind my eyelids. I told myself I was overreacting, but then my hands were moving on their own, typing "missing child Easter egg hunt," our state, into Google. The results loaded, and my breath snagged in my throat. Local girl, 6, vanishes during community Easter event. No leads. The article was a year old. I clicked it, my pulse hammering in my ears. The details lined up like cracks in a mirror. A small-town park, an egg hunt, a witness who recalled a loner in a hoodie lingering near the woods. The worst part? The cops found a single red egg at the scene, placed carefully at the base of an oak tree. Just like Lily's. My vision tunneled. This wasn't a prank. It was a pattern. That man hadn't just been watching the kids. He'd been hunting, testing, choosing. And my daughter had taken his bait. I called the non-emergency police line with trembling fingers, forcing my voice steady as I explained about the egg, the man, the missing girl from last year. The officer listened, but I could hear the skepticism creeping into his tone. "Man, we get calls like this every holiday. Eggs with weird stuff inside, strangers at parks. Without an actual crime, there's not much we can do." My grip on the phone tightened. "A child disappeared last year," I hissed. "And today, my daughter." I cut myself off, glancing at Lily's bedroom door. I couldn't say it out loud. Couldn't admit that if I hadn't been watching, if she'd bitten into that egg. The officer sighed. "I'll file a report, but unless you see him again, there's no suspect to follow up on." After hanging up, I did the only thing I could. I scoured every local news archive, every forum, every missing persons database. My laptop screen burned blue in the dark kitchen. Then I found it, a grainy photo from last year's egg hunt, uploaded by a parent in a now-deleted Facebook post. In the background, barely visible, was a figure in a hoodie. Too pixelated to make out his face, but the way he stood, slightly hunched, one hand in his pocket, it was him. My blood turned to ice. Because in the photo, he wasn't watching the kids. He was watching a little girl in a yellow dress. Just like Lily's that I barely slept that night. Every creak of the house made me jerk upright, my ears straining for footsteps outside. Around 3 a.m., I gave up and checked on Lily again, just to see her safe, just to breathe. But as I peered through her half-open door, moonlight spilled across her windowsill, and something glinted. My stomach dropped. There, balanced on a ledge like some sick gift, was another red egg. No. I lunged for it before logic kicked in. Fingerprints, evidence, but it was too late. My hands crushed the shell, and this time it wasn't glass inside. A folded slip of paper, damp with egg white, stuck to my palm. 2 words in jagged handwriting. "Found you." The scream building in my throat came out as a whimper. I whirled toward Lily's bed, half expecting to see empty sheets, but she was there, still asleep, still safe. For now. My mind raced. He'd been in our house. He knew where we lived. How? The egg hunt sign-up sheet? Had he followed us home? I yanked out my phone, shaking too hard to dial 911. Then I heard it, a slow, deliberate scratch against the back door, like someone dragging a fingernail down the wood. The sound stopped. Then a knock. 1, 2, 3. Silent pause. My entire body locked up. That wasn't the police. And it wasn't a prank. I don't remember moving, but suddenly I was barricading Lily's door with her dresser, my pulse roaring in my ears. The knocking came again, louder now, uneven, like the person was enjoying my terror. I hissed in the phone at the 911 dispatcher. He's here, he's at my house, when the knocking stopped. Dead silence. Then laughter. High-pitched, giddy wrong. Not a man's voice. A child's. My blood went cold, because Lily was still asleep behind me, and there were no other kids outside at 3 a.m. The dispatcher's voice crackled. Ma'am, officers are en route, but I wasn't listening. The back door handle jiggled. The next few minutes were a blur of slammed doors and flashing police lights. They found nothing. No footprints, no eggs, no man in a hoodie. Just me, wild-eyed, clutching Lily to my chest as an officer picked up a shred of red eggshell from our porch. Probably just neighborhood kids, he said, but his partner's face went pale when I showed her the note. They took it for evidence, promised extra patrols, and left. I didn't sleep for days. Then, this morning, Lily tugged my sleeve. Mommy, look. She held up a crayon drawing, a stick figure man in a hoodie, smiling too wide under a tree. And at his feet, a red egg. He gave me candy. She said that we moved across the state the following week. I didn't pack Lily's drawing. I burned it. The police never found the man, and the case from last year? Still cold. But sometimes, when I'm scrolling through my phone, I'll see a news alert about an Easter egg hunt in some small town. And I'll zoom in on the crowd photos, searching for a faded hoodie in the background. Lily doesn't remember the red eggs anymore. But last week, she came home from school with a handmade bracelet, tiny red beads strung together. A boy in my class gave it to me, she said. I froze. The beads looked exactly like pomegranate seeds, or drops of blood. I threw it away. But that night, I found it back on her dresser. And this time, the clasp was fastened impossibly tight, like someone had put it on her while she slept.